I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
Good morning, everybody. This is Jared Baston, and you are listening to Everyday Athlete, a podcast devoted to bringing you the amazing stories behind the lives of day-to-day CrossFit athletes like yourself. And today, a little bit different, actually. We are Bluegrass Barbell with Coach Ben Carter here, and we're going to kind of just dive right in. And Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Are you Kentucky resident?
I am, whole life.
Whole life? Where are you from originally?
Here, Louisville, Kentucky. Not 10 miles from the gym.
Wow, very cool. What'd you get started in athletics? I mean, you weren't a weightlifter your whole life, obviously.
No, I was a golfer for most of my life. I played golf in college, Spalding University, just downtown Louisville, and got into CrossFit. Actually got into calisthenics before that with a friend of mine, and then we got into CrossFit. I still don't really know when. I want to say it was 2005.
So for those of you listening, that's 2 years pretty much after it really took off on the West Coast. I mean, 2003 is probably the entrance. 2001
it was on the website.
Yeah, and then I think really around that year or two later, then it started to pick up, and then I think it really caught steam well after you started then.
Yeah, oh yeah. There was, I remember the 3,000th affiliate.
Wow.
One of the first 1,000 affiliates. I have no idea what number we were.
So you started doing some calisthenics and then got into CrossFit about 2005. What, you remember who introduced you? I mean.
So I was in a Globo gym.
Yep.
I was doing my calisthenics, and one of the trainers came up to me and asked me if I was doing CrossFit, and I asked her what it was. So she takes me back in the office and shows me a video. And then my first workout was Angie.
Oh, wow.
And at the time, I could do 20 strict pull-ups. So I knew, I had no idea what kipping was. So I get through, I'm like, okay, 100 pull-ups is going to take a while. So I had no illusions that was going to go great. But I could also do 100 push-ups straight. So I was like, okay, I get to the push-ups. And again, I wasn't naive to think that I was just going to bust out 100 push-ups after 100 pull-ups.
Right. But
when I could only do 8, I was like, oh, this is the worst day of my life. And then got to the sit-ups, and again, I thought, okay, now finally this is my wheelhouse. And those were the worst sit-ups of my life.
Yep.
And then squats, we would warm up with 200 squats every day when I did calisthenics.
Wow.
Every single day was 200 air squats. So again, I thought to myself, this is finally I'm going to do something right. And at squat number 20, I wanted to quit because my legs hurt so bad. And I kept telling myself, you haven't even used them yet.
Yeah.
But after that, I was hooked. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done.
I don't know what it is about that first ass-kicking workout where it seems like there's definitely two directions you can go. You see some people where it's like, well, that's not for me, and then other people are instantly hooked. I think it's a different mindset, and I always tell people that I think CrossFit is for everyone, but you have to be again in that right mindset to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because some people will, if you're not expecting it, whether you're expecting it or not, but if you're not willing to accept, I might not be that great at this, or this is going to be pretty tough, and you're expecting to just kill it, then some people just tend to kind of wane themselves off.
Yeah, it never actually gets easier. You just get better at it.
Yeah, thank you. I tell people that all the time. So that was 2005 then. And then you've got a pretty cool history. You went to, was it regionals or was it sectionals back then?
Yeah, it was regionals.
It was regionals.
2009.
2009, okay. So it was, again, pretty early on in the days. Was that at the...
It was at Rogue.
It was at Rogue?
Yeah, in Columbus, yeah.
Okay, so that was before they had the fairgrounds?
Oh, yeah, it was it was actually at their warehouse.
Yeah.
Outside, a lot of it. Really? Yeah, it was pretty cool little deal.
What, any memorable moments from...
I won I want to say there were 5 events, and I won the 4th one. I won the last one on day 2 was a rowing event, 2,000 meter row for time. Ooh. And I won that one.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun. And I ended up getting 2nd place overall. and I did not expect that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But that was just a brutal weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd never done 5 workouts like that, and it was really, really tough. I mean, you just don't really understand it until you go do it. But now people do it all the time.
Now it's
competitions and weekends.
Yeah, it's really cool to see some of those test and retest when you bring those older workouts back up, and whatever double DT or heavy DT they did games back to back.
Never underestimate the fundamentals.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. It's pretty amazing to see. And now I don't want to skip too far ahead, but you've transitioned a little bit more into weightlifting, correct?
Correct.
More so than the CrossFit side of things?
Yeah, well, in 2009 I competed in the games, took 21st, and then I thought to myself, if I ever did want to do better, what would I have to do? I had to get stronger. So I dabbled a little bit in powerlifting, but I just didn't like it a lot. I still have tons of respect, and I do a lot of powerlifting cycles in my weightlifting. But weightlifting is the hardest thing I've ever done. CrossFit, even though I didn't get quite strong enough, I did pretty well. I could always kind of work harder and get better. Weightlifting, no matter how hard I try to overwork myself to get better, it's always slaps me back down. I always say nothing makes you want to get under a heavy barbell. You just kind of have to commit to doing it.
Kind of have to do it, yeah.
So.
I definitely haven't been lifting as long, but I think definitely for myself, coming from a very slight competitive background with it, doing okay in the open and qualifying for regionals and that kind of stuff. But there is something very therapeutic, I think, about weightlifting as well. Versus,
absolutely.
Again, we talked a little bit prior to being on the podcast here was, the sport of weightlifting is definitely different than the sport of CrossFit. The sport of CrossFit is very in your face, very let's go hard. There's some gaming and things like that in workouts, but there's something therapeutic about lifting by yourself or one or two other people, and it not being this loud, crank up the music. It can be heavy squat days or something like that.
Yeah,
you need some motivation, but generally speaking, it's very within yourself. You have to concentrate a lot harder. There are a lot of fine adjustments that need to be made.
Well, they go really well as a complement to one another, because sometimes a weightlifter can get a little lazy and not work the things they need to work. The beauty of CrossFit is that there's so many variables and variations and movements you can do and get better at that will just make you a better overall athlete. And that's the piece that misses from most weightlifting programs.
Yeah.
And I say most because there are a lot of them that are very, very good at that. And then on the other hand, weightlifting does a tremendous amount for CrossFitters because it teaches them quality over quantity, because you only get 6 lifts in a weightlifting meet.
Yep.
You don't have 10 minutes to try it 10 times.
Right.
And more importantly, in a weightlifting meet, it's not only that you only get 6 attempts, but you have to rest in between.
Yep.
You're not going to be able to just keep, ripping away at it, or you just wear yourself out.
Yeah. Ride that adrenaline wave out.
Yeah. Having to weigh in, that can be a big factor for people, because in a weightlifting meet, it's impressive that you snatch 1 1/4 your body weight. In CrossFit, it really doesn't matter. It just matters that you snatch the most.
Right. Or that you pressed it out 3 inches from your elbows and
it's just part of the sport.
Yep.
CrossFit is becoming the sport. As soon as it has defined rules that never really change, and then there's some adaptation there, then it's a sport.
Yeah.
People get paid to do it. Train all year for it. CrossFit Games is amazing. I mean, I remember when it was on dirt.
Yeah. Where were the games in 2000?
It was the last year of Romus when I did it.
Really? So you got to go to the ranch?
Coolest experience.
You got to go to the ranch. I'm jealous of that.
Really, really cool. It was just a big field party is what it was.
That's
a bunch
great.
of people working out.
And drinking lots of beer, probably.
Yeah, there was Glassman brought in all this German beer, and it was $1 a beer after it was over. And everybody had a great time.
Probably one of the best tasting beers you've had.
Oh my gosh. That was, yeah.
Well deserved. No, I think one of the draws of weightlifting for me was definitely that transfer over. I was a soccer player. I ran cross country to train for soccer. So cardiovascularly, I've always been pretty well off. But when it came to heavy barbells, it was a huge weak link for me. And now I lift as a 77, so right around that 170-pound mark. So I'm a smaller guy, and like, well, how do I get stronger? And it's going to be weightlifting.
Right.
And the amazing thing that I noticed right away, that I try and tell our people a lot, especially that are kind of on the teetering point from, maybe do I join the barbell club to kind of supplement, is carrying's not that hard when you squat more. For example, it's a lot easier to do muscle ups when you're pulling heavier weight off the floor. So I think finding that transfer over was huge, and then it just for me turned into a love of, again, how do I push myself and make these minute changes, and watching myself on video and making these small little shifts in the foot and driving the knees out and things like that. And
Well, even just something simple, slowing down.
Yeah.
It shows you the importance of, I have to slow down and do this right, and then I can start speeding up again. And it takes a while to learn that. I mean, it probably took me longer than it should have.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that I have to harp on to my kids all the time, is you got to slow down and do it right. And then, it really only lasts 2 weeks. You just didn't seem like that. It seems like you've been doing, I'm never going to go fast, I'm never going to lift heavier. And then 6 weeks later, you're hitting a PR and a meet because you took the time to learn how to do it correctly. Because there's only so much muscle you're going to put on in a 8 to 12 week cycle. You're going to have to improve in your technique in some way, shape, or form.
Yep. I think dynamic start's probably a really great one, where you see a lot of people starting out and they get that huge shift down with the hips and they drive off the floor, but it's so inconsistent.
And it can be if you don't train it all the time, which is another reason of, why do weightlifters have to snatch and clean jerk so often? It's because it's a movement that there cannot be thought when you're going after your heaviest weights. You have to rely on your technique.
Yeah.
And really give yourself 2 years, 5 years. I mean, that seems crazy, but it takes 5 years to really hone in your technique.
Yeah.
And that's kind of being generous. You're constantly gonna be changing things, where my hands go, where my butt starts in my start position. Do I do a dynamic start? Do I like a more static start? All those things can be a big difference.
Yeah, I remember just moving my feet in or out, just playing with it really, and just figuring out this definitely works better. And then actually going back, because I moved my feet out, well then they weren't moving as much, and I wasn't getting into the bar, and I pulled it back in, and now I'm actually moving the feet out, and I feel faster,
And there's, some may say, well, I just wasted 3 months doing a different start, and now I have to start all over again. Well, you don't realize the things that might have improved when you did that. The problem is don't always look at doing something wrong as you really did something negative. It's that I tried another way, and you honestly may have developed musculature that you were missing. It'd be like a power lifter doing a conventional stance versus a sumo stance, and being more comfortable with one or the other, but doing the opposite for a few months to build whatever they need, versus its back, legs, or hips, or adductors, whatever you need, and you end up becoming a better lifter overall.
Yeah, I think I can't remember who said it. It's been said a couple times, but it takes X amount of time to 2 or 3 years, 3 years to get to your 90%, and 10 years to get that last 10% of your maximal capability,
your potential.
And I think, regardless, CrossFit, weightlifting, probably bring it to any sport, running, or if I just started playing basketball, I might be training really hard and get frustrated, but what people don't understand is your actual age versus your training age plays a big role. We can have people who are in their late 30s start, and they expect it to be better than someone who's been lifting for 3 years already. It's just not true. You'll have your natural athletes every now and then, but for the most part, you have to actually have a starting point. And if you've been training for a year, you are 1 year old in your training age.
Right.
And a lot of people don't take that into account, whether again it's CrossFit, or whether it's weightlifting or powerlifting or any other sport there is. You can't just kind of hit the ground running and expect to be there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was only that easy.
I think it's a good point to hit too. Is maybe coachability or humility. I don't know if you see that and take that into account when people you're training, because I think coachability is a huge one. You have to have people who are coachable. Is that a problem, or is that something you see a lot in people that you have to correct?
Yes, you see it every day.
Yeah. What's a good, I don't know, a good way to really go about getting someone to be coachable? Because I think, at least for coaches listening, or even people who maybe don't understand the concept of being coachable, explain a little bit about what works best for you, or if there's it's probably for some individual. I think some people respond to certain tactics, other people you have to be a little more hard-nosed about.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It takes time, and you have to build a relationship and a trust with that person. 2, you have to be open enough to kind of word things differently depending on the person, your attitude towards that person. Sometimes you aren't the right coach. They need to go to somebody else, and that's totally okay. You're actually doing them a favor as well as yourself, because you're both just going to get frustrated. That doesn't happen as often, but it's there. But for the most part, it's take each person as it is. Don't get frustrated too quickly, because it could be just that one word you need to say differently that kind of puts things together. Be open to other coaches, giving them critiques, because there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't matter who says it, as long as the end result is such. I've always said, if I had to call it snatch a spoon to get you to do it right, then we're calling it a spoon the rest of your life.
Yeah. It
doesn't really matter. It just matters that you do it safely and efficiently. So the biggest thing is patience. It's hard. Snatching and clean jerking, even something as simple as that, it's really hard to learn.
Yeah. When we bring people through our fundamentals when they're just coming in, because again, what we usually see is that kind of throughput from a whiteboard class, and then they get an interest in weightlifting, and then then they're introduced more in depth to the snatch and clean and jerk. But even our fundamentals, when we're going through teaching people who have never snatched before, there's a sit down meeting with them, explaining that it's the hardest thing you're going to do. It's going to be the most frustrating. You're going to feel silly. You're going to feel stupid. I'm going to tell you to jump and throw your hands in the air, and you're feeling a little bit vulnerable, and I think revisiting that and knowing that it's going to feel awkward, and there's going to be things you're going to be asked to do that aren't going to be comfortable. And as an athlete, you have to be open to that. And I think that even as a coach. I don't know if you have a coach, or if you kind of are self-coached or self-coach right now. So, and I just recently have a coach, and it's one of those things where it's tough taking criticism, especially when you feel like you've been doing it a while, and you're like, well, why are you telling me to do that? I worked so hard for this. But again, taking that big step back and knowing that someone sees something that is better than you, and they're telling you to do something to make you better. It's once you realize that, things start to move along a lot quicker.
Everybody needs a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have, as far as your lifters go, do you get a lot of people that are previously athletic, in athletic background? Do you get all types where they've never done anything before?
All types.
Yeah.
And I was very excited recently. We just did another 6-week weightlifting class, and I had somebody start who had never done anything before. It was very exciting. Yeah, because you have no bad habits.
Blank canvas.
I haven't seen one of those in a long time. And it's nice because you don't have to unlearn, relearn. Like, it's just, I tell you to do something, and and I'll explain it as many ways I need to get it the way I want it.
Right.
And then you just kind of mold them into what you want.
Very cool. Is that generally how you have like a 6-week kind of on-ramp for new people?
Typically for new people, I do a month with 5 one-on-one sessions. So we try to do 2 the first week, and then 1 kind of follow-ups, and then I expect you to come in and follow the program that I gave you, and just kind of give you small critiques here and there as we go along. Because you just need reps. You just need to practice over and over again. And you may muscle snatch for a month. You may end up being able to do power variations, maybe even doing the full lifts. It really depends on the person, what I'm seeing, what needs to be fixed. And we're not talking about somebody who is actually really good may come in and only be able to do muscle snatches and power lifts for the first month because their squat needs to go up, or whatever they need. Maybe they need overhead strength.
Sure.
So the program is molded around what needs to happen first. It could be even just a rehab situation where they've been having shoulder problems. Okay, well, we're doing this to help your shoulders, but while we're doing that, we're going to make your pull stronger.
Right.
So stuff like that. It's just such a wide variety.
Yeah. What's a good piece of advice to give somebody if they maybe they've thought about it and never really thought to take that leap?
Anybody can do weightlifting. I'm a little bit on the other side with CrossFit as far as I don't think anyone can do CrossFit. I think anyone can work out at a CrossFit gym, but not necessarily do CrossFit.
There are definitely levels to it.
Yeah, there's definitely levels
and
to
that's
it.
one thing that we found very early on, but I don't think we responded to until within the last probably 2 years, to where everyone needs a squat. If my grandmother's sitting next to me, she needs a squat, but she may be sitting up into a chair and standing up. I think this, unfortunately, and I think you're beginning to see a shift, but I think for a lot of gyms, it's squat below parallel, go, you have to, and I think that, unfortunately I was that way for a little while, where it's like you're almost forcing these people into positions they shouldn't be in. Some people just may never have to do a pull-up. They can still be physically fit person, and they're going to be good with either ring rows or their push-ups.
I still think ring rows are harder than pull-ups.
They are harder than pull-ups. Thank you. Thank you. They're awful. Everyone who's watching and you're down on yourself because you don't have a strict pull-up, ring rows are the worst thing in the world. They're so hard.
Very hard.
But I think that unfortunately there's that machoism kind of look to it, to where you have to be at this extreme level, and I don't think that's true at all. And that's also with weightlifting.
Close, yeah.
People think, well, I have to lift all this weight. Absolutely not.
That's the beauty is, a snatch is the ground to overhead in one motion.
Yeah.
A clean and jerk is the ground to my shoulders and then overhead in one fluid motion, or each in a fluid motion. But the beauty of it is anybody can do that. I mean, you see a USAW meet and a 70-year-old is out there doing snatch, clean, jerk, and no one cares what they lift. It's the fact that they're out there doing it.
Yeah.
Let's say you can't go from the floor and you're off blocks the rest of your life. You're still getting a great workout.
Yeah. I think that's the competitive nature of people at the detriment almost, where they feel like they're constantly gauging themselves versus what other people are doing, and you just can't. Yeah. You have to see where you started. That's one thing why we tell people, write down everything, log everything that you do in our system, so that when this comes up again, you can go, oh wow, I did this at 65 pounds and now I'm doing it at 85 pounds. That's a big jump.
Yeah, but your time's 2 minutes longer.
Right,
it's like,
exactly.
But you tried something new. Like it's a different stimulus now.
And the same thing, when you talk about snatch or clean and jerk. Hey, I was from the blocks at this much, and now I don't have to go from the blocks. I can go from the hang, because I have that position down, and that's huge. And I think we're so used to seeing these big jumps, people don't respond to the small ones.
Well, it's just it's the small jumps, and appreciating the 1 kilos. You learn that that's invaluable, and they still don't come very often.
Yes.
And then it's a simple fact of, well, I didn't get this gut-wrenching workout today.
Yeah.
So I went and walked 2 miles. And then if somebody says, well, that's not high intensity. It's like, well, walking is still exercise.
Exercise, yeah.
You still get a lot out of walking. If you don't walk for 2 miles, you haven't done that in a long time, your shins are going to be so sore the next day.
And we walk the dogs, and we live in a relatively hilly area in kind of a valley, and I walk up the hill, and I get back, and if it's a 3-mile walk, my hamstrings are burning.
Yeah, absolutely.
The tendons in the back of the knee, the calves, the hamstrings, and I'm like, it's a completely different stimulus. You need every single bit of it.
Yeah.
I want to take a quick break, and I want to come back and actually talk a little bit about I think where the sport is going, because I think we're seeing a lot of masters come in, and then obviously a lot of youth come in. So we'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we are back. We're here at Bluegrass Barbell talking with Coach Ben Carter. And I want to bring up, maybe start with the Masters, because you are a Masters weightlifter.
No, not yet.
You're not yet?
Still a youngin'.
Man.
33 years young.
I don't know why I thought you were Masters.
My wife is a Masters.
Now I feel like an idiot. Well, I will say that in our relatively small barbell club, in comparison to a lot of other ones, I think that we're at least a third of them are Masters, and I think you're seeing an acceleration of that age group. I don't know if you've seen that with you guys or.
Absolutely. As soon as they figured out they could go to another country and lift.
Yeah.
We went to Finland 2 years ago. Lord willing, we're going to go to Barcelona next year, and there's like 3 or 4 people that are going to go. So I'm very excited. I can't wait to do that when I'm a master.
Yeah.
I mean, how many things do you really have to compete at when you get older?
Yeah. I think that's.
And that's not old by any means.
No,
but,
no.
You know, you're not a college athlete anymore. So what is there to compete in?
Well, I think you see a lot of that competitive aspect get. And again, CrossFit, whatever it is, I think that's a huge draw for a lot of people. You know, your ex-collegiate and ex-high school athletes, they get into adulthood, and real life takes over, and kids and careers and things like that, and you find something that that can kind of re-spark that, and I think it's a huge draw. And I don't know if it is people finding it, or if it's that bleed over that we've seen from CrossFit, kind of shifting and transitioning to weightlifting. But I've seen a huge uptick in just the interest of it, and just the rosters that are filling up in the Masters division. Lavetta, Tevis, who comes to the gym, she went to Germany and Worlds last year, and I think she's been to the Pan Am Games a couple times.
Yep.
And then she was down in Miami for the first, was it the
This
first
is
American, second American Opening Series. So she's the same kind of thing, kind of been all over and things like that. And it's been really cool to see not only her, but we've got a couple other Masters athletes that are just, they've, not only is their mobility improving and their strength improving, but I think just the mental capacity of giving people a little bit more confidence just in daily life.
That's something to shoot for too.
Yeah, having those goals are huge. And again, when your life is all about family and career, it's hard to have a personal kind of performance goal.
Yeah, and it's something you can be around. To be around a community of weightlifting now. CrossFit has helped popularity tremendously. I mean, I found it because of CrossFit also, and Mike and Sage Bergner, huge influence on me. Max Mormont's out in California, huge influence for me.
Yeah.
And between Sage and Max, I don't know which one was my first coach, but they both, if I ever had a question, I'd ask them.
Yeah.
Just because they know more about weightlifting than I.
Right.
Probably forget more than I'll ever know. But, you make a lot of cool relationships. And then Masters, it's been awesome. My wife was very excited to get into that. She hadn't competed since college, really. She did the CrossFit Games in 2009 on a team, and really enjoyed it. And so weightlifting has been really good for her. She competed in Miami and did even better in Grand Rapids this past weekend. So it's really good. We have that we can share together, and a reason to travel.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm excited to become a Masters, because then we'll be traveling for both of us.
There you go.
As long as you can afford it and take the time off work, it's a fun excuse to travel.
As I say, do you think that's a reason why they have the kind of out of the country these meets? Because I think that maybe
it's an international competition.
Yeah.
And does it mean a whole lot? Well, it means a lot to the people going to compete in it, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
It's not nationals. It's Masters nationals.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little more laid back. The people there are there to have fun, and there's a few people going for records, and which is great. But in Louisville, there's a lot of runners. There's a pretty good biking community. There's a few sports here and there, but there's nothing predominant that I know of, and I've lived here for 33 years.
Right.
So, what's somebody can compete in? I mean, I was in the volleyball community for a little bit, but it was never, it's serious, but it's not that serious.
Right.
There was nowhere that allowed you compete internationally. It was a huge draw for me to get into USA Powerlifting. Is you can compete internationally, and I'm not at that level, but I would love to be a part of someone that wanted to reach that.
Yeah.
You know, I know our state chair, Clint Poor. He, I always say his name wrong. Sorry if I did, but I know it's Clint, and you know, he's one of the best benchers. Yeah, he's competed in those things, so it's neat. It's a cool experience.
Yeah, because I think too, it's a tight knit community. Whether it is powerlifting or weightlifting, it's such a, you know, you start to see the same people, and you know, it's almost like your reunion. You know, where you get to catch up with some of these people you haven't, especially if you're talking internationally or nationally, where you guys might be meeting up year after year. Definitely kind of cool. One thing that I've personally noticed with exercise, with CrossFit, with weightlifting is I'm starting to want to ask people, because it's something that dawned on me a while back, and the more I ask people, the more I find that it kind of rings true. But I don't know if you've seen your mental capacity grow with weightlifting, as far as what I could just call problem solving in general. I think for a lot of people, there's a big daunting task whenever you have this. For weightlifting, it's going to be maybe you're snatching off the blocks, then you've got pulls, then you've got some RDLs, and then you've got back squats or something like that. Big daunting task. For me, just breaking that piece by piece down has been really helpful when it comes to normal everyday problems. You know, in the past, I've been get a flat tire on the way home and your day's ruined. And now it's just, I just fixed this and I'm going to move on. I don't know if you've seen that, maybe with yourself or just with other people around you.
Definitely see a confidence piece.
Yeah, I think that's
feeling
huge.
stronger,
Sure.
moving better. I will tell you, when you get into, you take weightlifting very seriously. It's a little bit more than a hobby, but obviously you're not quite doing it, you know, nationally.
Yeah.
It still can ruin your day with a bad workout.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a hobby. It's become more than that. You know, you choose to eat certain things, you choose not to eat other things. You don't go out, you know, certain weekends because you got a meet coming up. You know, you're cutting,
making weight.
I mean, you sacrifice some things, and you take that stuff emotionally harder, as you should. I mean, that's the beauty of sport.
Yeah.
You take it that seriously, and it can ruin your day, but you know, most of the time you have another day to do it again. Mm-hmm. You know, if you have a bad meet, you can make it up, and you should try to make it up as soon as possible. Don't wait.
Yeah. If
you can afford it and there's one coming up, like, do another meet. Go and try to redeem yourself, and if that doesn't work out, do another one.
Sure.
Get in that positive frame of mind that I can do this, or you know, a perfect example is this past weekend competing in Grand Rapids. You know, I've been training pretty well, but I've had some other stresses in my life, and you know, I didn't know how well I was going to do, so I just went and had fun. And you know, I still only went 2 for 6, but I opened up heavier than I ever have in a meet. And I kind of had a small knee injury in February, so I haven't actually hit a full squat in anything. And since then, and I hit my first full squat by accident.
There you go.
With 140 kilos on my shoulders. So without zero knee pain whatsoever. So
that's
it was,
a win.
I was super pumped.
Yeah.
Missed the jerk, but I was so excited sitting in the bottom of that squat going, wait a minute, I'm in the bottom of the squat right now. Oh yeah, I got to stand up.
Yeah.
So
I think
it was just fun. It was a fun experience.
If you just look at, so many people get hung up on those number PRs, your snatch PR, your jerk PR, clean jerk PR, you know, back squat or deadlift, or put any number or put any lift on it.
Right.
But if you're just looking at those, eventually you're going to plateau. And like you said earlier, you take those kilos or even half kilos for they're an exciting event when they do happen. But if you're just looking at those whole lifts, then you're going to go insane. Like, you got to talk about, okay, well, I hit a double from the low hang for a new PR. And that's why we track stuff, because if you don't, you're going to go crazy, because my snatch hasn't gone up in, 6 months, 8 months. And for me, for clean and jerk, like almost 2 years.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you have to say to yourself, if all you are is bragging about your back squat.
Yeah.
When your snatch and clean jerk has been the same for
Right,
2
exactly,
years,
exactly.
then you need to stop back squatting.
Exactly. And focus on the other fun stuff.
But yeah, focus on something else because clearly that is not improving
Right.
your lifts.
It's in your wheelhouse already. Yeah, you don't need to improve on that. And that's one nice thing too about with weightlifting is it does force you to become pretty uncomfortable with especially stuff that you're not used to. I just did. I'll call it a squat jerk. It was, but squat jerks were probably the first time in 2 years, and it was well below where I normally jerk at, but it was something fun and something it was fun-ish, let's say, but it was something new that I haven't really tried in a while. But it was definitely better than the last time I tried it, and it made things a little more interesting. And the CrossFit side of things, we did a workout the other day with some, what are they called, double up rope climbs, where you basically start in L position in the bottom, climb up,
Nice.
and then you come back down, touch your butt, and then right back up. And it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done, and I sucked at it, and it was awesome.
They are very difficult, yeah.
Because it was something new that I had never actually tried before, and I think again that's the exciting part about sport.
I think my favorite CrossFit story is nobody had a rope. So when I first started doing CrossFit, so the recommended substitute for rope climb was 15 towel pull-ups.
Oh.
So I'm in a YMCA with a buddy. We were out of town, and it was this workout, and I don't know why, but I knew it was 150 towel pull-ups.
Oh.
So I'm in there, and I knew this was just going to take forever, but I was convinced, like, I'm going to do this. So the towel broke on 148, and I completely fell off that pull-up bar on my butt and had to take this small piece of towel that was left and do the last two pull-ups.
Oh my gosh.
But it was priceless because I remember like feeling that thing rip, and I just kept going because I was like, well, the worst case, I'm just falling.
Yeah.
It really wasn't that high. I mean, it wasn't even as high as the pull-up bars we have now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I fell right off that pull-up bar.
That's whenever I've hands have slipped and things like that. It's not far, but it feels like you're falling forever.
It feels like you're falling forever. Yeah.
I will say that there are a couple of modifications, like the 5-to-1 towel pull-ups, and the muscle up is 3 chest to bar, 3 dips, I think.
Yeah, it used to be 3 just regular pull-ups.
Okay,
and,
yeah.
3
Either
dips,
way,
but that was 150.
30 muscle ups for time workout.
No, it was 5 because it was 150 for the 30 muscle up workout. It was 150 pull-ups and 150
That is
dips.
such an unfair trade-off. This is a bad trade-off, especially the dip portion.
JT was the worst workout for me.
Oh, yeah.
For me. I would do it through that first round of 21 handstand push-ups because this was before kipping.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we didn't know to kip. And not that I'm actually a huge fan of that anyways, but still, it is what it is. Well, you do what you do. And so I remember getting through that, and then the push-ups were so easy, and even the dips were almost a joke. But then you get the set of 15, and you're just like, all right, guess we're doing singles.
Yep. I remember the first year we went to regionals, and I think the first workout for the teams was it was 4 of the 6, so you had 2 guys and 2 girls, and everybody rode 750 meters. So it was a boring workout to watch, but you each rode 750 meters, you met at the wall, and then you had to do a whopping 50 handstand push-ups. And it was 4 people, and it was like, I can't go anymore.
Can't be, yeah.
Now you've got people that can probably rep out 75 handstand push-ups without a problem.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where, again, you just see the progress of the sport. And that goes with weightlifting as well. I mean, didn't CJ Cummings attempt 3 world record attempts this past weekend?
Yeah.
I mean, he just turned 17. He's breaking national
everything.
I mean, he's a
senior
records as a junior.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable to see, and I think that's just a testament to the level of coaching that his and just knowledge, I think.
Well, it's the level of coaching, and then what we've always talked about. What if we had an athlete that could do pretty much any sport?
Yeah.
And decided to be a weightlifter.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had amazing football, baseball, soccer. I mean, you pick the sport, it doesn't matter. There are amazing athletes who can do things we don't even dream about.
Yep.
But they do those sports because,
There's money.
frankly, it's popular and it's money.
Yeah.
You know, how many weightlifters, you know, you've heard numerous times of football players power cleaning 400 pounds for reps. You know, high school kids power cleaning 365.
Yep.
So, you know, what if those kids decided just to be a weightlifter? And you see that sometimes. You see that with these really good athletes. But that's such a small sample to draw from where,
Yeah.
you know, how many football players are there? How many gymnasts are there in
Yep.
the youth programs? How many swimmers
Yeah.
are there? It's just a huge group of people.
Yep. And you're to ask some of these guys to spend the time and the effort and what it takes.
Go into a gym, there's only going to be 10 to 20 people doing what you're doing.
Yep.
None of them will be your age.
Yep.
Maybe you have a sample of 5.
Yep.
And honestly, most of them aren't even going to be close to what you are. So you're going to have to find self-motivation somewhere else.
Yep. And I
but
think
it's
there's
still-
and it's growing. I mean, that is the exciting part, is you are seeing that sample start to grow, because there is a draw to it. There's something, you know, Rogue just signed on for the American Open, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge company that is basically took all their eggs in one basket and now spreading it a little bit wider.
Well, you also say, but there's benefits too. I mean, you can travel the world.
Oh yeah.
I mean, think of everywhere that they've been, even in the last 2 years.
Yeah. And social
it's a
media
pretty
has helped
cool
as
thing.
well.
Yeah.
You get social media in there, and you've got not that followers are going to, you know, what the world's about, but it widens that
kinda is,
exposure.
sadly.
Yeah.
But you know, you get a lot of free stuff too.
Yep.
You know, you're going to get sponsors. I
Yep.
mean, people will very much sponsor anything as long as you have enough followers. So
Sure.
there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's going to get what they can.
You
While they
get
can.
yours, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you can't get a bunch of money playing football, at least they can get clothes and possibly, you know, protein. I mean, that stuff costs money.
Costs
you know,
money.
Or money to go to the meet, entry fees.
Sure.
None of that's free.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, I completely switched directions, but we talked a little bit earlier about people just starting out. Is there when you have people just start out, is it a 3-day a week? Do you have them go right to 5 days a week? It's not a cookie cutter thing. I mean, you're definitely catering towards individuals, but is it really more dependent on their schedule, or are you saying like, hey, we need at least 3 days a week, or we need 4 days, or whatever it is?
I always say minimum of 2, maximum of 4,
Yeah.
starting out. Typically it's 3 every
Yep.
single time. It's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday,
Sure.
Thursday, Saturday.
Sure.
Or maybe even a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know, whatever they fit
Yeah.
their schedule. And then if they want to do more workouts, they can either do a CrossFit WOD, they could do just some cardio,
Yep.
come and drag the sled, push the prowler. I mean, it doesn't really matter. But I don't like to do too much weightlifting right away. I mean,
Right.
we're not going to jump in on a 5-6 day program because they're not going to want to muscle snatch every other day just to recover. You know,
Right, exactly.
You're going to be so sore anyways, just because you're not used to doing it. But you know, everybody talks about, you know, they'll go run and they haven't ran in a year and like, oh, I'm so sore. I'm like, well, if I did anything that I shouldn't say never done, but I haven't done in a long
Right.
time, I'm going to be sore. I go to yoga tomorrow, I'm going to be sore.
Right. Yeah, we've had that couple times where we've had people, make that little bit of a shift over, and their first 2 weeks are like, I can't move. You know, like, yeah, because you are where you're going to be probably squatting more. You're going to be lifting in different positions you haven't lifted from, and just generally speaking, doing very specific things over and over and over again. You know, and versus again, CrossFit being constantly varied, and you're rarely going to do a box jump followed by a box jump on Tuesday.
You're right.
You know, whereas weightlifting, you might snatch in a variation on Tuesday and snatch in another variation on Thursday. It really just depends.
You know,
on
the thing is, but there's so many benefits to both. I mean, there really is.
well, they complement
And
each
then
other
that's
very
why
well.
there's cycles to programs.
Yeah.
You know, there's a prep phase for a reason. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be CrossFit, but when I put a weightlifter doing a 6 to 8 minute on the minute with 3 snatches.
Yep.
That's very similar to what you're doing in CrossFit, and they're going to feel like
It feels a lot like CrossFit. Yeah, you do a 3
5 sets
position.
of 8 back squats. I don't care what percentage it is. It feels a lot like CrossFit, even
Yeah.
if you're resting 3 to 5 minutes between sets.
Yep, absolutely. Do you have? I like to tell our people that within 6 to 8 weeks, it doesn't always happen, but within 6 to 8 weeks of you starting, you should be basically preparing for a meet. Is there a time frame you like to have for your people?
Not necessarily. It's really just when we typically might set a weight goal, and
Yeah.
I mean, so the new guy. Let's just use the new guy. Comes in, he doesn't know how to do anything. He's used a technique bar, and his best snatch pull right now is 30 kilos. Could he lift more than that? Of course, he probably could.
Right.
But that's not the point.
Right.
He can't lift more than that correctly, based on my comfort level, not
Right.
necessarily his. So after the 6 weeks are over, there's a fair chance he's probably snatching and clean jerking the bar. So I would say a realistic goal would be for him to snatch 40 kilos and clean and jerk 50 kilos at his first meet if he wanted to do one 6 weeks after that. So
Gotcha.
a brand new person, never done anything, 12 weeks, theoretically, could at least try and go do their first meet in
Yep.
12 weeks. Someone that comes into the gym, as long as they have a base, maybe they haven't done it before, but they've been exercising, they've been CrossFitting, I try to get them, 8 weeks. I'm like, I want you to do a meet if you want to.
Yeah.
Competing should be something that should be done if you want to. It should not be forced on anyone.
Sure.
But I think it only feeds the addiction. Like once
Yeah.
they do it once, they're like, wow, that was over so fast. When can I do it
Yeah,
again?
yeah, yeah.
All that weight, you have your weigh-in 2 hours later, you finally get to actually go lift, and then you wait 45 minutes to an hour again, and you hit the other one, and it's over, and you're like, that's it?
Yep.
This was great.
Yeah.
I want to do it again next weekend.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're gonna take a step back and you're gonna recover because you're gonna be sore every time I do a meet. It feels like, funny thing is all the years doing CrossFit and like doing competition, it's like I got a reason to go pig out. I'm gonna gorge myself, and then I still do the same for weightlifting meets, and I haven't really done anything.
Right,
It's
right.
like, I mean, yes, I'm sweating and I'm moving and things like that, but by no means am I doing 3 20-minute workouts.
It's still, you really should, because you should celebrate. Like you
Oh,
should
for
have been, you should have been the last 4 to 6 weeks doing a more strict diet, even if you didn't have to worry about weighing
Yeah.
in. Like you're just kind of, and that goes to should you be on this super strict diet all year long? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And every program that I've ever heard of, whether you're, RP strength or working against gravity or any of those, they all say that. Hey,
Yeah.
give yourself a break.
Enjoy
Because you should.
yourself.
Yeah.
You got it.
You only need 12 weeks at maximum to prepare.
Yeah.
Really 4 to 6 is when things hunker down and you're like, okay, I really can't screw up these 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because things are getting serious.
When do you start to talk about weight classes and things like that? Because again, your first meet, it's just you need to
Show
just go
up.
do it. Show one. Do not worry about what you weigh. I had a couple people where their first one, like, I'm gonna drop a weight class, and I'm like, I don't think you should, and then they do it anyways, and it's like their mind's so shot.
Oh, they're miserable.
From trying to drop a weight class, and they can't even focus on lifting.
Well, it really depends on the person. If you're 65 kilos and you've been wanting to lose weight anyways, then I might say, hey, you know what? Let's cut to 63.
Yeah.
And obviously, you're not a extremely lean person.
Right.
You have the room to lose 4 pounds. And that doesn't mean you're really overweight either. It just means that losing 4 pounds would not make you physically ill.
Right.
And like, hey, let's do that. We can do a half a pound a week over the next 8 weeks, and you're there. So that's when I might be like, let's do that. It make you happy, so you're already satisfied when you weigh in. So it's already a win. The day's
Right.
victory. It would be great if we had some lifts, but
Right.
if it doesn't go so well, at least you're like, wow, I weigh. I
And
weighed
you look
in.
better in a singlet.
Yeah, and I look better in a singlet. Versus a person, let's say myself, right now I'm a little bit heavier, but most of the time I hang around like 102 to 103 kilos. Why in the world would I cut to 94?
Right.
I'm not going to qualify for anything.
Yeah. And you'd be miserable.
And I'd be miserable.
Yeah.
Versus just eating like normal, and I'd weigh in, and let's say I eat a little bit more of that. I had breakfast that day.
Yeah.
And I weigh in at 104.5. Well, now that they got rid of the body weight thing, Whereas, a person lifting the same weight as long as they're lighter would have won.
Yep.
That's gone. So
Yep.
now it really doesn't matter as long as I weigh in under 105 kilos.
Right. Yep.
Nobody cares.
Right.
It matters a little bit if you're doing I don't know what they're doing, how you are doing the winners, kegs and kilos, but there's an overall winner at the Super Total this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had to base that off Sinclair.
Yep.
Well, Sinclair is a formula based off body weight and total, and age actually. But so it would matter what you weigh in. Like
Yep.
I would definitely want to weigh 102 kilos versus 104 and a half because, that's going to increase my Sinclair a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that's one thing that we try and. That's always a tough one where you need to make weight and you might need to clean up a little bit, but by no means should you be trying to cut down
Starving yourself,
three or 4 kilos. Absolutely. We always have one question we end with, and it's cool to kind of see everybody's answer, but it's always just what's the definition of fitness for you?
I always said that there was like these standards of things. I felt like everybody should be able to do a pull-up. Barring something, physically wrong with you. Everybody should be able to do 10 push-ups, not on your knees. Everybody should be able to do 20 squats without stopping. Everybody should be able to run 400 meters in a relatively, an actual run,
Right.
not a jog or a walk. I always said the ideal. I always said when I turn 50, I'm going to do an Ironman. And I said, my workout program will be 2 days of weightlifting, 2 days of yoga, and 2 days of running. And I'll take off Sundays.
Okay.
Like that's, a general mobility, a little bit of strength, a little bit of conditioning.
Right.
I'm good to go. I'm probably sitting around that point, 18 to 20% body fat. I don't eat whatever I want, but I'm very comfortable.
Right.
I'm not going to turn around going out to dinner because I can only eat my chicken and rice. Just a general workout, 30, 45 minutes a day, stretch a little bit extra just so I don't get too tight. People sit, we're sitting here doing this. I'm going to get tight just sitting here doing this interview or podcast. And, just a basic workout regimen and fairly clean eating.
Yeah.
I should say fairly, because I think everybody should cheat at least once a week.
Yep.
It is something to look forward to. You may be a little bit miserable because you overdid it the next day, but you never really regret it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the multifaceted approach is probably the best, where you've got pulling from different angles.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to go. Well, awesome. Thank you for listening to Everyday Athlete. Join us next week as we dive deep into the lives of the people who make us great. Thanks, man.
Thank you.